Welcome to PHP Project Solutions. This is a virtual training company CD or online tutorial. My name is Dave Mercer, and I'll be your instructor for the course. In this course, we want to provide in-depth coverage of major PHP syntax, built-in functions, and web application programming techniques. Now, what this means is we're not going to teach you fundamental programming. We're just going to go over syntax that's peculiar to PHP. We're also going to cover built-in PHP functions. For instance, string handling functions. There's quite a few that are built into PHP, and we'll cover all the major ones. But we're going to do this in the context of web application programming. Now, we're also going to build complete web applications from projects. So our coding solutions are going to be presented in the context of projects for which you might have common PHP programming requirements. When you meet these requirements, you'll use the solution that we provide, and that will make your web application work, and it will also demonstrate some of the common PHP programming solutions. And again, we're going to do this in the context of complete PHP web applications built from these projects. So what are the objectives of the course? Well, we want you to learn real-world PHP, web application programming basics. We want you to learn how to set up sessions, how to interact with web pages when you get a query string or when you get a form submission. We want you to be able to create complete web applications, not only with PHP, but using HTML or XHTML, using XML data structures, using JavaScript, and on the back end using a Postgres database and SQL. Now, you can't really create a web application without having some familiarity with these languages. So by the end of this course, you'll be able to use all of these things with your PHP programming effectively in a web application. And along the way, we're going to learn a lot about PHP programming and about troubleshooting while we do our coding examples and solutions. Now, in order to get the most out of this course, you really should have a basic understanding of how web pages and browsers work. You should know a little bit about HTML, and you should have at least encountered a little bit of scripting or what we call interpreted programming languages. PHP is an interpreted programming language, and hopefully you have just a little bit of experience with it. You don't have to be an expert, but a little bit of experience would help. Now, you can write all your web pages and all your PHP in a plain text editor. I prefer to use an HTML editor. In fact, in this course we use Dreamweaver because it's just so much easier to make all of the elements of your page show up and act the way you want. But be aware, we're still going to be going into the HTML and the PHP coding quite extensively. So this is not a class about Dreamweaver. We're just using it to make it a little bit easier to whip up some web pages before we get down to the programming. You also should have a web server with PHP 4 installed, either on a regular server or on your own computer that you're working with. You got to have something to make these web pages come up and to process the PHP. And for our purposes, we're using a Postgres database, so you have to have that installed. If you don't have that installed, you need to have some database installed. You need to know how to create tables with that database, and you need to know how to make a connection to that database. We're going to be making a connection to a Postgres database. If you have a different database installed, you need to be able to connect to that other database, and you need to know how to do it. It's not going to be exactly the same as the kind of connection we make. So if you have those things and you're ready to go, let's go.